Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today we will be making another doll for Valentine's Day. Only a few weeks before Valentine's Day, so that's why I decided to create this. To begin with, we're gonna start with the head. I actually, if you've been watching my videos, I'm actually someone who creates all the tubes before I start connecting all the parts. So I've already pre-made all the tubes and we'll be going through them one by one, okay? So for the first tube you need to make is for the head. The head is consisted of 60 rows and I use a white yarn, any brand as long as it's weight category 4, and usually with your Addi or Sentro machines a weight category 4 would work just fine. Okay, so the first thing you need to do with the tube for the head is to cinch one end and then grab your yarn needle, and then we're gonna close this in. Okay, this is the part that we will be inserting inside the tube, so doesn't have to be perfectly sewn. As long as this end is closed properly, you'll be fine. Okay, so we close this end by making a couple of seams, and then you're gonna insert your needle through the center of this end, and at the same time pull or insert this end through the tube all the way to the other end. Okay, and then you're gonna pull that needle and the yarn. Okay, all right, and then so now you'll have two tail ends on one side. You're gonna close the upper or the outer layer of the tube by cinching. Make sure that the center of the other end is aligned with the center of this end. Try to pull this end, cinch this end as much as you can, and then tie both tail ends. Okay, maybe a couple of knots would do. And if it doesn't close this end all the way, like this, even after tying a tight knot or a couple of knots, it's still quite open at this end. So that's when you use your yarn needle and your yarn tail to close this end. You're gonna sew it again for just a couple of seams, or as much as it takes to close this end. Somehow this brand of yarn that I use, it's from a local store, one of those value yarn, Michael's actually. The yarn's pretty thick even though it's just a weight category 4. I like it that way, but at the same time it's kind of hard to use it when it's too thick. All right, so now that it's completely closed, we can now hide both yarn tail. Oopsie, what just happened there? Here. So we cut one. And we have one more. Always helps to have several yarn needle available for you while you're doing the project, so you don't have to always remove and then reinsert your yarn through the same needle. So let's hide this second yarn in between the two layers of the tube, and then we cut. All right, so that's the top of the head right there. So now we have an open end on this side. So what you're gonna do to form a round head is to use your remaining yarn and your yarn needle, same color of course, and make running stitches along the edges of this end. We're gonna be creating a drawstring, okay? So this will close the tube after we put in the filling, okay? We stuff the head with the filling. Alright, so just keep going until you make it all the way around. Okay, so now we made it back to close to where we started, okay? So now's the time to put your polyester fill in, your stuffing. Now, if you prefer to use plastic doll eyes for these, now would be the right time to put those doll eyes on the face, because once we close this, you won't be able to put those doll eyes. For this project, I'm not gonna use those plastic doll eyes. I'm either gonna use felt eyes or embroider. I haven't decided yet. We'll see at the end. You've probably seen it already because by this time you've seen the completed doll already. But I haven't decided at this point. Okay, so as you can see, I've pretty much filled the head or stuffed the head with the stuffing. It's up to you how much you want to put in. I think it's a generous amount that I put in, and that's when you cinch this end so we could close it. Okay, there. So it's not really round, it's kind of an oblong. All right, so when you're satisfied with the shape or the amount of stuffing that you put in, completely cinch this end as much as you can without breaking your yarn tails, of course. And then tie a couple of knots. I'm so afraid that I'm gonna break it, so I'm trying to be very careful here. Okay, that's as much as I'm confident to pull it, so just make a couple more knots, and then we can reinforce this by sewing the edges again, because we really have to close this. All right, so just make running stitches again along the edges of the tube, open end of the tube, same way you did it in the beginning. There you go. Alright, as you can see, I'm able to pull it better now with this new set of running stitches. almost there. Alright, and we're gonna lock our stitches. Make this a little flatter, or shape it to the shape that you want. Then let's tie a couple more knots using the yarn tails. Make sure it's secure. And then we'll hide the yarn tails. Okay. All right. Let me cut it. Okie dokie. So now we're finished with the head. That's the shape that you want it done. Okay. So we're gonna set this aside, and then we're gonna move on to making the hoodie. All right. For me, it's important to put on the hoodie before putting the features of the face, like the eyes, the nose, just because it gives me a better idea on how to position them after I've put the hoodie on. Okay, so this is the hoodie. I'm using a velvet yarn by Bernat, and I made 35 rows. Unlike the head, we're not gonna double the tube. It's gonna be just one layer, just because we're gonna be putting this on top of the head already, which is already double layered. So I'm not afraid of the stuffing coming out of the doll. All right, and the velvet yarn is pretty thick. Surprisingly, it worked well with my Addi. I hope it does well for the Sentro, so I haven't tried it yet. It's not as thick as I thought it would be. So this is the only fluffy yarn, other than I've also used the Bernat Peep Squeak. These two are the only fluffy yarn that I've used that worked for the Addi and the Sentro. All right, so what you're gonna do with the hoodie, you're gonna cinch one end like you're making a beanie, and again you're gonna close this end by sawing, making a couple of seams here. Ignore this little flower right there. It's just a reminder for me not to get out of camera frame. Okay, I hope that doesn't distract you. Okay. Now, if you're gonna use the same yarn, the velvet one, just be careful, because even though it looks thick, they easily break. So when you're sewing, when you're pulling on it, just be very careful. Okay, so I'm satisfied with this. I closed it enough. Let's hide this yarn tail inside the hoodie, and then what we're gonna do now, we're gonna keep this side open. Okay, get the head of the doll, insert the head inside the hoodie, and I'm gonna keep this loose right here. Okay, we don't want to make it too tight, so just expose enough of the head so you can put the you can decorate it with the features of the face. All right, and make this as tight as you can. Okay, so I was able to insert the head through the hoodie that we made. Okay, so just expose enough of the face. Just hide where we close the ends on the top. So this will be the top of the head. Okay, and then I secured it temporarily with needles here. And then we can use the yarn tail to sew it from this end, going to the top all the way to this end. We're gonna leave this part loose for now, where we're gonna be attaching the rest or the body. Okay, all right, so let's grab a needle. And the way I'm gonna be attaching the hoodie to the head is just by simply doing blind stitches. Go. Take this needle off. So you just continue sewing the hoodie around the head. Right. I'm just gonna lock our stitches here temporarily and hide it. Okay. All right. And then leave that there for now. So it'll be loose like this in the back. Okay, and it look like this in the front. Okay, let's leave it like that for now. We're gonna set it aside, and then we're gonna work on the body. All right. So for the body, I also use red velvet, and actually this is divided into two. But you shouldn't have to do this. You can just do 55 rows of the velvet yarn. The only reason why I had to split it this way is because I ran out of velvet yarn, red velvet yarn. So anyways, we're gonna be inserting this inside the tube, so you won't be able to show this part. That's actually one way of saving a little bit of your velvet yarn, which is not cheap. All right, so the first step for the body is to cinch one end. Actually, it's almost the same steps as what we did for the head. Okay, we cinch one end and close it by sewing. You'll probably also find that the body is a bit smaller than the head, which I also made that intentionally. Okay, couple more stitches. now that we close this end, the same thing. We insert our needle through the center of this end. Insert the end of this tube through the center of the tube, all the way to the other end. And then pull. Ooh, this thread is hurting my eyes. Okay, then you pull the yarn, okay? Align this end to the outer layer of the tube, and then cinch the other end over the one that you just inserted. Okay, and once you cinch that end, you're gonna tie a couple of knots between the two yarn tails. Oopsie. See, so now you don't see this other yarn anymore. All you see is the velvet yarn. Okay. And now we can hide this acrylic yarn. We don't need this anymore. And then let's insert this velvet yarn tail through a needle and sew this end a couple more times, like maybe a couple stitches, just to make sure it's close enough. Also, it would help that you insert your needle through the two layers of the tube. Make sure that it's stays in place. Okay. Alright, that should be good. Alright, so now we've closed that end, and now we have this open end when you turn it over. So the same thing as the head, you're gonna stuff it with the polyfiber fill. Make running stitches around the edges to make a drawstring. Cinch it, close it, and then your body is made, okay? Okie dokie. Alright. So now we have the body. Okay, so one end, this end will be connected to the bottom of the head. Oops. There you go. And then this one would be the bottom of the body. Okay. Alright, well, let's leave this aside for now. The body and the head. Now we're gonna work on, let's work on the ears first, the floppy ears. So for the ears, just to make it a little bit more unique than the usual bunny plushies, I decided to make some striped bunny ears, floppy ears. And to make these, you're gonna make 2 tubes consisting of, let's see how many rows, a total of 40 rows. No, 43 rows actually. So first you're gonna cast on with your white velvet or whatever yarn you want to use. White velvet yarn, cast on, make 20 rows. Switch to your black yarn, make 5 rows. Switch again to your white, make 5 rows. Switch again to your black, make another 5 rows. And finally another white, 5 rows. And the last row would be consisting of 3 rows of your black, and then you cast off, okay? You're gonna make 2 of those tubes. And by the way, whenever you need to change colors, make sure that before you do anything else with that tube, you turn it inside out and make sure you tie the ends of your color changes and secure them. Tie them together and trim them, okay? That way when you start stretching or pulling them out, stretching them or shaping them, you won't drop, the stitches won't drop, okay? So the ears would be very easy. All you really need to do is cinch each end, okay? The white end, this end would be the one that you'll be attaching to the head, okay? It's one floppy, big floppy ear. All right, lost all my needles here. So grab your yarn needle. So I have a little technique that I do for the end of the tubes, just to shape it into an ear. So first you close the end, right? Cinch it, make a couple of stitches to really secure your this end or your stitches. And then I need for you to fold it in half, like lengthwise, and just make maybe 3 to 4 hemming stitches along the edges going towards the center, just to give it a little curve. Like that, see? Gives it that shape of the ear. Okay, so 3 to 4 stitches along the edges of the ear, and then just lock your stitches and hide your yarn. Or actually, since I'm gonna be attaching this end to the head, I'm gonna leave this yarn here. I'm not gonna cut it yet, okay? Because I'm gonna use that later. Now for the other end, you're gonna do the same thing. You just wanna create that shape, but also make sure that you close this end by making a couple of stitches. Couple of seams there. Okay, so once you've cinched and closed it, fold it in half like this. Focus it a little bit. Fold it in half like that. Okay, and then join the edges. Sew them together just on the edge, maybe 3 or 4 times. Okay, and then lock your stitches. Now for this end, I'm gonna cut the yarn because we no longer need it for this side. Okay, so as you can see, it gave it that shape. All right, okie doke. So we cut this after you hide your yarn. All right, so now we got one ear. Okay, so you're gonna do the same with the other with the other ear. I'm gonna pause it for now so I can make that, okay? All right, so now we're done with our 2 floppy ears. We're gonna set these aside, and we're gonna move on to making the arms and the legs. So we made 4 tubes for the arms and the legs. So for the arms, I've decided to do, well, the arms are gonna be a bit bigger or longer than the legs. So for the arms, you're gonna do 15 rows. So cast on with your red yarn, velvet or not, whatever you chose. 15 rows, and then switch to your white yarn and make 5 rows, and do another 14 rows of the red. Okay, so you're gonna make 2 tubes of that. So cast on, make 15 rows, switch to white, and make another 14 rows, and then cast off. Okay, all right, so 2 tubes for the arms. For the legs, which are shorter, you're gonna cast on with your red, make 12 rows, switch to white and make 5, switch to red again and make 11, and then cast off. Okay, so we're gonna make 2 tubes. All right, the way we're gonna make the arms or legs are pretty much the same, but let me show you one. All right, so what you're gonna do first is you're gonna cinch one end. Now I believe for the arms and legs we don't need to use any stuffing, but let me see how it looks before I confirm that. Sometimes when the yarn is too thick or fluffy, there's really no need anymore. So cinch and close by sewing like we did with the others. Okay. There. Insert your needle through the center of this closed end like we did with the head, and then you insert this closed end of the tube through the entire tube all the way to the other end. Align it with the other end. So as you can see, we're pretty much doing the same process over and over again. It's just a matter of how you're shaping your parts, whether it's a circle or round or triangular. It's whatever you need. Okay, so after you've inserted the other end, you're gonna cinch the outer layer of the tube. Okay, and then we tie a couple of knots to close this end. We have a little beanie right now, Christmas beanie. Alright. And then we can hide one of the yarn tails because we're not going to use that anymore. Now for this, I don't think we're gonna need to put some stuffing or polyfiber in. So let me see what I can do here. Trying to see. Actually, what we can do is grab a white yarn. Same thing with the others. Let's do a running stitches along the edges of this open end of the tube. Just so we could still create a round end instead of just flat. Oops. Okay. So I got it all the way around, so you cinch it as much as you can, and then we tie this. To completely close this end. Okay. So as you can see, it's already fluffy. So I didn't put any stuffing anymore. So after that, it's still too wide to be an arm. So what we're gonna do is fold it in half lengthwise. Okay. Let me focus this a bit more. Excuse me. So fold it in half lengthwise. Okay. And then use your white yarn at the end to sew the edges together of the white part of the arm. Oops, don't like that. Okay. Alright, I think we got that. And then we insert it back to the center just so I could tie it up together with the other yarn tail. And then we're gonna hide the yarn tails. Hide it and cut it. Do the same thing with the other one. Okay. Now for the red part, same thing. You fold it at the center and use the remaining yarn tail to close up the edges. Just like that. Just the edges. I think even if you use a regular yarn and not a velvet yarn, you still won't need to use fiber fill for this, because if you fold it lengthwise like this, it's still gonna be puffy or fluffy. So save some of those fiber fill. Okie dokie. So that's one arm. Ta-da! Okay, so lock your stitches. I'm actually gonna move it all the way to the top and the other end. And make a couple of stitches here just to make sure it's locked. And I'm gonna leave the yarn tail on because I can use this later to sew the arm onto the body. Okay, so that's one arm. And then for the rest of the limbs, the other remaining arm and the two remaining legs are gonna do the same exact steps. Follow these exact same steps as what you did with the arm. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna do the rest of the limbs and come back. Okie dokie, so I've finished creating the 2 arms and 2 legs. As I've mentioned earlier, the 2 arms will be much bigger than the legs, okay? Okay, so we're gonna set them aside. And the last part that we're gonna be making for this doll would be the tail. And what you're gonna do is you're going to make total of 15 rows with your velvet yarn, starting by casting on with your white yarn and making 10 rows, okay? And then switch to your black yarn and make an additional 5 rows and then cast off, okay? So the way we're gonna make the tail, it should be a round tail. Cinch one end. Actually, we're gonna cinch both ends. So after you cinch both ends, you don't need to lock it because we'll be sewing it together anyway. So you're gonna flatten the tube just like that. Okay, so the other side would be black. All right, and then you will be making, again, you'll be making running stitches around the edges of the white part, okay, after you flatten this. Let me see. So again, use your yarn tail. Right now it's at the center of your tube. Make one stitch here. Oopsie. Okay, there. And then move your needle through the tube center all the way to the edge of the tube right here and pull your yarn, okay? After that, make one stitch and then fold your circle or your tube in half just like that. Or actually, if this is where your yarn is, fold your tube this way so you can start from here, okay? And then you're gonna make running stitches all the way around. Around the edges of your white part of the tail. Okay, and then pull it, cinch it, and there you go. That's your tail. Alright. If you prefer to just use one color, that's fine. Your choice. Okay. So I'm gonna lock my stitches here at the center. I'm gonna keep this tail attached to this, the yarn tail, I mean. I'm not gonna cut it yet because we'll be using this later to attach the tail to the body. And then for this end, you just need to close this end and oops, lock your stitches and then hide your yarn. Your cute round tail, okay? Okie dokie. So we set this aside. Alright, so now we're back to, we created all the parts now. So now we're gonna connect all the parts. Starting with the head and the body. Okay. So as you, let me unfocus this real quick. So as you remember, we left this part unattached to the head or not sewn to it. So after looking through it, I think we should have attached it. Okay, so I'm glad I kept this yarn tail. Sorry about that mistake. I thought it would look nice by having this part of the hood in the back of the head, but I tried it and it didn't look good. So my bad. Alright, so we're just gonna keep the back of the hood loose, but we want to make sure that this is attached all the way around the head. Okay, so we just do the same thing, just make blind stitches along the edges of the hoodie, making sure your needle goes through the head as well. And then we can lock our stitches. Okay, it should look better after I attach the head to the body. So lock your stitches and then hide the remaining yarn tail. I noticed that because the what do you call this? Because the velvet yarn is too stretchy, when you're connecting the parts, it might not be as stable or secure as when you're using a regular acrylic yarn. So just to make sure, you can just for the purpose of connecting the parts, you can also use acrylic yarn of the same color. Okay, so after securing or attaching the hoodie to the head all the way around, so in the beginning I just attached it from this point to this point this way. Changed my mind, decided to sew it all the way around. Okay, next one that I'm gonna connect or attach to the head would be the ears. So the part of the ear that you'll be attaching to the head would be the white end. Okay, so remember how we folded it in half lengthwise? So the way I want you to attach it to the head is this way, that fold facing forward or in front. Okay, it's gonna be on top of the head, with the ears about 3 inches apart. Okay, around there, because I really wanna, like when the doll is sitting, I want the stripes to really show and the ears to look really floppy. Okay, so if you want to make sure you're putting your ears in the right position, attach it temporarily with your needle or yarn or your pins, I'm sorry, and then with your tape measure it. So I guess 2.5 inches would be enough for it to be apart. Okay, all right, 2.5 inches apart. So let's first attach this side. What's important is they're evenly attached to the head, okay? And again, I want those ears facing forward. Alright, so get your needle through the hoodie, the head, and the ears. Insert it right through the ear, and then back to the head and the hoodie. This would also keep your hoodie in place. Oh, okay. Alright. Do that a couple of times. Maybe this time through the center. And I'm sure not everyone will like the color combination I used, but feel free to change the colors, or if you don't want stripes on the ears, you can just make that plain. So we lock our stitches and hide our yarn. Alright, and let's hide this. Oops. There you go. Okay, so one floppy ear down. Yeah, that's so cute. One more to go. Alright. Looks like this side already slid down, so I'm going to raise it up a little bit here. Alright, so I'm going to attach this other ear on and be back, okay? Okay, so now we got both ears attached. We're going to move on to attaching the body to the head, okay? Alright, so this is how you want your body attached to the head. This time we want to use double yarn strings when sewing it to the head, the body to the head. Also, I decided to use acrylic yarn just because velvet yarn, you know, because it's so stretchy, and it might stretch or it might not securely attach the head to the body, and the head is quite heavy, so I want to make sure it's attached safely on the head, okay? And also, if you have this kind of needle which is long, it would help you a lot because this one is pretty thick, okay? So the way I do this, let me get up because I'm short. Alright, you just make sure that this end is hidden underneath the head, okay? And the head is and the body's at the center, at the bottom of the head, okay? So I'm just gonna insert my needle. I'm gonna squash it for now. Poor bunny. Get my needle through the body first. Okay. And then now through the head. I'm sure there are many ways to do this. This is just my technique. Feel free to share your techniques if you have easier techniques. Normally, I would do my dolls without separating the body to the head. I mean, it's just going to be one tube. But because of the hoodie and the way I want it to look to look like, I had to make the body separate from the head. Okay, I'm gonna pull that yarn. Okay. All right, so just go back and forth. Sometimes I have to crisscross it, make sure it's attached. The velvet yarn is just too soft. So I think it was a smart idea to connect these two parts, these two heavy and bulky parts, with a regular acrylic yarn or cotton yarn, whatever you have, as long as it's the same color. Red, bloody red. Uh-oh, what did I do now? Ooh, what did I do? I don't want to break anything. There you go. It's just being stubborn. Okay, so you're just going to continue attaching it back and forth, head, body, until you've made it secure and firmly attached, okay? So far, this is what it would look like with the floppy ears. So cute. Alrighty, I'll be back. So now we've connected the ears to the head, the body to the head. Now we're going to attach the tail. So we're going to put it in the back. Turn your bunny over. So for this one, I prefer to have the black side show. Okay, if you choose the white side, that's fine too. But this is how I want it attached. Okay, you're just going to find the center lower part of the body and then sew it. Simple as that. For this one, since it's a light part and it's not so heavy part, you can just use the remaining yarn tail of the bunny tail. You don't have to use a separate yarn or an acrylic yarn for this. It's not so hard to connect. Okay, you don't want to attach the sides too tight or too flat on the butt the body, because you want it like fluffy. And then we can just lock our stitches and then hide your yarn. Make this a little bit more secure. So cute. Right, so let's cut this yarn off. Alright, so that's how it would look. Bunny tail. Alright, couple more parts to attach, and then we proceed to creating the face. Alright, so the next one we need to attach would be the arms. I'm not going to be going through into so much detail, but what you need to do is just simply position it directly underneath the head on each side of the body and sew it onto the body. Okay, just like that. Alright, and then the legs should go this way. Alright, pretty much just below the arms. Well, not just below, the bottom part of the body aligned with the arms. Okay, same thing, the same way you saw the head to the body or the ears to the head, it's the same way that you're gonna sew the arms and legs to the body. Okay, all right, let me do that and show it to you when it's all connected. We finally got all the parts together. This is the front. This is the back with the fluffy tail. So now I just have to figure out how to make the face cute. Alright, so I'll be back with that part. Okay guys, so I've decided on, instead of doing embroidery, I've decided on using buttons, black buttons of about 3/4 inches in diameter. So you're gonna attach them to the face about 4 rows apart, and about no, I'm sorry, 4 columns apart or stitches apart, and then from the top of the, from the edge of the hoodie, about 1 2 3 4 4 rows below. Okay, so what I did was just I used a white yarn. This is a 4-hole button, by the way, that I used. So I just gently sew it to the face on the locations that I mentioned. And then later on, we'll just embroider a nose and a mouth. Okay, so far so good. So if you end up using a plastic doll eyes, make sure you do it before you close the head tube. And again, it's kind of hard doing it that way because you want to be able to see the face with the hoodie on. And that's why I decided to use this instead of the plastic doll eyes. I always have difficulty with that. But if you have ways to do that and you really want to use a plastic doll eyes, then you can do as you wish. Okay, so I'm just gonna hide my stitches here. Now, if you're giving this to a baby or a child, especially a toddler, you want to make sure that these buttons are secured. You don't want anyone choking. I mean, still the best material to use is still one of those secured plastic doll eyes if you're giving it to a child. Or embroider them. Much safer. Okay, now for the nose and the eye and the mouth. So now let's work on the nose and the mouth. Okay, so what you want to do is find the center of the 2 eyes. Maybe mark it. So maybe along, just align it with the bottom of both eyes. Find the center. Maybe along 3 stitches. 2 to 3 stitches. This will be your nose. Too tiny. Maybe 1 2. So I used 2.5 stitches. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is insert my yarn, black yarn. We're using black yarn. Okay, then we're gonna do it 2 more times. You don't want to make it too tight, okay? So back and forth a couple of times through the same stitches. Let's see. That would be your nose. And then the last time you do this, you're going to insert it through the same area on the right, and then find the center of your nose above. Maybe around there. Let's see if this works. Okay. Don't want it to look too thick. Okay. And then so that would be the nose. We're going to work on the mouth. Insert your needle down, maybe two rows down, making a straight line. Like I said in my previous videos, I'm not an expert on embroidery. So if you have a better technique, feel free to do it. All right, and then back down one more time. This time, I'm gonna insert it one row down or two rows down to the left to create the lips or the mouth. Ooh. Reinsert it through the bottom of that straight line and then move it to the right, my right, two rows down. Oh my God, it looks like Pikachu. And then we can hide this yarn. Usually hide it around the neck, so let's see if my needle's long enough. Looks like I have to squish it. Squish the head for a little. There you go. Oopsie, I think I pulled the yarn too hard. Let me see. Oh, it's cute. There's your bunny. Cute bunny face. All right, hide your yarn, lock your stitches, and then you can cut the yarn. Here we are. Here's our final look. So guys, I decided to just put button eyes for him. Embroider the nose and the mouth or the snout. Put a little bit of a couple of felt fabric, red felt fabrics shaped in hearts. Two small ones on top of the eyes, just to act as their eyebrows. His eyebrows, cheeks, bigger ones, and a really big one, a white heart, just in front of his chest. I just glued it to the toy or the stuffed animal. Okay, I'll take pictures of it so you can appreciate it more. And I have a little surprise for you as well, because I know not everyone has a king size or a big circular knitting machine. I decided to make a mini one. This is his mini me. So just different colors and different number of rows. I'll post the number of rows right after this video. I'll include it in the video actually. Um, looks a little clowny here because of the color. I don't know why I decided it to be black. I just think that black, white, and red looks really cute. Um, so you get a double tutorial today for these two dolls. uh, so the only difference is, you know, it's gonna be smaller hearts for the face, smaller embroidery, smaller eyes. I decided to use plastic doll eyes. If I focus it more, you'll see that the eyes are about 4 rows below the edges of the hoodie and about 3 columns apart. Um, the the ears are about 1.5 inches apart. But I'll try as much as I can to put all the information in the next slide. But everything, the process of making the bigger one is the same as this one. Okay, just different looks, a little bit of different in looks because of the color and the size. Alrighty, I hope you enjoyed this video. Enjoy more of the pictures for these dolls. I'll be adding more pictures. If you have any questions, you know how to reach me. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't yet. Like, hit the like button, the notification bell so you won't miss any of my new videos. And expect more videos from me. Thank you. Bye-bye.